On today's episode of the K-Swap 240 presented by Turn 14 Distribution,
we're going to wrap up the fuel system, then install a catch cam from Radium Engineering and some thermal gaskets from Blocks.
DP, you are back.
I am, barely. I've got some kind of flu-like condition, but you've been busy while I've been gone.
Yeah,
it's
I got all that done there.
Yeah, this looks perfect. Your hose retting is nice and clean. See, you put some fire sleeving or heat sleeving on the hoses because the header is going to be making some heat through here. Looks really good, man. And I guess next up, you've got your sexy fuel rail to go on. You've prepped it all.
Is the next thing we're going to be installing along with our ID injectors.
I like the way the gauge just goes on the rail like that.
I know.
It's a clean look, eh?
So sexy. We almost got ahead of ourselves there. Before we go installing our fuel rail, we need to install these thermal gaskets from Blocks. We were calling them phenolic spacers.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to pronounce that word. I butcher it every time. So from now on, I'm going to call it a thermal shield gasket, as Blocks calls it.
Yeah,
that'll be much easier. So this is a thermal gasket that we're installing, and we're doing this for two reasons. Obviously, this is going to not connect our intake manifold directly to our head in the sense that there's metal-to-metal contact, which it allows more heat dissipation into the intake manifold and vice versa. So this is a great way to kind of like shield the intake manifold from heating up. And because we have a spacer that we're working with here, we're going to double up on this. I think this may be the first time anyone's ever done this. So we're going to figure out if this works or not. It's time to lop this piece off before I can install our thermal gasket.
What are you going to trim it with, PT? Scissors?
Nope.
Bandsaw?
Bandsaw. You guessed it. This is a bandsaw project.
All right, let's do it.
Much easier than cutting metal, that's for sure. Yes. Clean that corner up here. There we go. Now obviously before you go bolting on that gasket, you want to make sure you have a clean mating surface. So a razor blade and a
Scotch Brite pad, yeah.
There we go. DP coming through is always good. All right, let's see how this fits. All right, looks like we've got a smooth transition here, which is good. So let's move on to, much like our K thermal gasket, I had to lop this portion off the S2000 one from Blocks. So now I'm gonna bolt this up and we can move on to our fuel rail and injectors. And
you got long enough bolts for this job?
I do, for sure I do.
Oh yeah, that's a nice long bolt.
That's right. But the main thing is, do we get much?
A bit of room here? Yeah.
I think it did a little bit more. Yeah. Right around there.
Yeah, it looks like that.
We've got more space here and here.
Yeah.
So I think it's win-win.
Yeah, that looks good.
I've always been a big fan of ID injectors, and the radium stuff is, like Dave said, aluminum jewelry. And now they're going to mate, and you don't want to do this dry, right? Do you?
No, probably not.
No. For some reason, we don't have any Vaseline at the shop, which is absolutely crazy, DP.
I think Ken stole it from us.
I think so. We'll blame Ken, but...
When in doubt, blame Ken.
I'm using a little bit of silicone lubricant here, so it's okay to use this. I don't think it's bad for the seal, actually. Oh man, that goes in nice. Look at that, it's got that cool little spring there.
Yeah, that's neat.
Wow.
I've never seen that before.
This is some automotive porn, people.
It really is.
And there's a fail on my part, and that is there's supposed to be like a rubber grommet, a large size one that goes on the end of the ID injectors before they go in, because you can see if this tries to go in here,
just loose. Yeah,
it's just like a hot dog in a hallway moment. And I did not specify when I ordered these injectors about that grommet. So the guys over at ID are sending them out. They will arrive soon, but we're gonna test fit these injectors, see how everything looks and bolts up in a moment. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the final assembly here. I should also mention, so ID includes everything you need to splice these into your existing wire harness, which is what we'll get to when we get around to the electronic part. But let's get back to putting some injectors in. This may be a good time to mention that if you haven't watched our Injector Dynamics factory tour, you should go check it out. Video link in the top right corner. It's a good one.
It is a good one.
Paul, the man behind these injectors, is a very knowledgeable guy, and more so, quite the character.
He's a badass
I enjoy
dude.
talking to him,
Yeah,
exactly.
He is.
He's a no bullshit kind of guy, you know?
I liked the deadlifting at the end. That was
Yeah.
my favorite part, for sure.
I wish I could have competed with him on that, but I felt a severe hernia coming if I tried, so I
He's a
said no
big
thanks.
dude. He is a big
Yeah.
dude. You're not going to win that fight.
No, you're not. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Man, this looks
So
good. So these injectors will actually work with any type of fuel as well. So if we decide to go E85 in the future or anything else, we're gonna be good to go. So I've already gone and pre-made my Dash 6 vibrant line here that's going to feed the radium fuel rail, but
Something's missing?
another small fail on my part. You know, when you're putting this stuff together, it's always difficult to know what kind of fittings you need and whatnot. And I thought, after countless times of rechecking, that I had everything. I am literally missing one fitting, and that is a Dash 8 ORB here that goes to the 6AN. So this is the one piece that is going to show up later and be installed. You're not gonna see it, but our fuel system is complete, ready to go. Obviously, I'm gonna have to take it apart. I wanna paint that piece of metal and just tighten everything up as well. But for the mock fit, we are good.
See, you've already found a home for your catch can.
I have actually.
It's mounted up there pretty
While you were laying
solidly.
at home sick, I was still working here, you know?
Someone has got to keep the shop going. So you've obviously gone with a radium catch can. This is their
of course.
Their universal single catch can, and like all their stuff, it is beautiful. I love the sort of machined texture they put in the bottom half of the can.
Yeah, makes it easy to break apart.
So you can do this. So it literally just screws open. You can see the dipstick. It's got this screen, and it's got stainless steel media in it, which I don't know if you can see it very well.
You can if you pull that.
If we pull that fitting out,
yeah.
you'd see it. But it's got like kind of like steel wool in the top half of the can, and then this screen, which helps separate the oily vapors or the oil in the air vapors from the air. And that's important because you don't want to be recirculating oil back into your intake system. It can like coat the inside of the throttle body, coat the inside of the intake manifold. It can even get into your intercooler if you're running one. And all of that is bad because oil lowers your octane level. So it can lead to knock. And it's also bad for emissions. So getting that out of the intake tract is really very important, and this will help do that. You've also got their optional petcock kit. That's not easy to say, Peter. Petcock kit. So it's just a drain kit. You've got your push-on fitting here, push the hose on, splice this drain on-off switch into the hose somewhere, and then you can route this down into like a wheel well or the bottom of the engine bay where you can drain the can into a container without having to take it apart and get dirty. So it's just a clean way to empty the can out. And by the way, if you're filling your can up really quickly, that can also be an indication that you've got a problem with your engine. So a catch can can also be a useful diagnostic tool. If you're pumping this thing full of oil in one lapping session, might be time for some rings or something, PT.
Do K motors?
K motors, they do. K and F motors make very high crankcase pressure, and some of them pump a lot of oil into catch cans. So it'll be something to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see how quickly we fill this up, especially with a fairly high mileage motor like this.
Well, and now that it's oriented in the wrong direction per se, there may be some weird stuff going on in the valve cover.
There could be, there could be. So this will be something to keep our eye on. Look, everyone, Pete's playing with his petcock.
And boy, is it a nice, clean petcock. Very rarely used, brand spanking new.
I wasn't expecting you to go there, Pete.
Wow, I think that's gonna work. There's a perfect spot right here for a zip tie.
Yeah,
Damn.
just hang it straight down
Yeah,
there. Why
and
not?
then you just need to jack the car up.
Yeah.
Slide
Easy.
it underneath, drain your petcock. So I'm gonna run the hose from here to our breather off the valve cover, but it's supposed to route back into the intake, and unfortunately we don't have an intake built. It's gonna be really awesome. I actually have something pretty wicked planned for the intake. I think a lot of you will like it. Some of you will wonder why I did what I did, but it's gonna be super cool. And that will come yet again at a later date in another episode. So for the time being, I'm gonna finish up these bolts, route our vibrant heater hose that we're using.
Nice thing about that vibrant heater hose is it's very flexible.
It is, and this corner here is not
tight bend,
ideal.
Think you get away with it?
I think so. I just need to get a. The hose is actually a little bit bigger than the
outlet?
size of the outlet, but if I put a clamp on here, this should work. It's certainly not an ideal bend there.
It's a bit of
I
a
feel like, you know what?
bit of a bend, but it's not
DP.
kinky, really, is it?
I think I need a hammer here.
A hammer.
I've got no space.
Yeah.
You know what? This is another thing we're gonna leave to when the engine is out, because then
Good
I can
idea.
just smack that up.
Yeah, good idea.
But in the meantime, we'll show you how this routing goes.
It's time for the nose ring removal tool. I love it.
Again,
We use this to cut everything now.
we've been using this really often lately,
It's total overkill for a rubber hose.
but it's so good because
it's just so
usually you
fun.
get like a crappy end on it, and now you've got a good one, and we'll just slide that on there, and we'll call this kind of done.
It's half done.
Half done. So
Semi-done.
I think that is a wrap on this episode. There was some good progress today. Where's my marker? I think we can officially say the fuel system is 99.5% a wrap on that. And that also means we are a wrap on this episode. So lots left to do. We're slowly chewing this stuff through this stuff with the little time we have. But as always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, post us a comment what you think. And as always, check out our merch store for some merchandise or our Patreon page. Those are both two ways that you can help support us. So we'll see you next round where we're gonna start working on the cooling system. Man, do I love this blade. Yes, clean that corner up here.